This is the Change Physician, episode 170. Welcome back to the Change Physician. I am Melissa Katie, the Challenge Doctor, with my co-host, Dr. Kevin Cuccaro. We're here to do a deep dive into our most recent 2 episodes. We split it up into 2 because we spoke with foodie physician Sonali.
Ruder.
Don't want to say Ruder. I don't want to say the wrong way. Ruder. And we discussed in the first part the physician journey, and then of course we tapped into the whole foodie physician portion on our second episode with her. So any initial thoughts, Kevin, on our episodes with your friend?
Yeah, so I'm just completely blown away that she started cooking in residency. That still is hard for me to comprehend.
Swallow.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Pardon the pun.
Well, it's just nuts, right? Because it's already such a busy time, and like it was a little different for us because we had 2 young kids when we were in residency, so we had absolutely no time. But even without kids, residency is hard, and then to kind of choose to go, I guess, to pursue that. And I understand, like, if you guys go back and look at the episode, and Sonali was using it as a form of almost like rest and recovery, which makes a lot of sense. But then to keep pursuing that, like, and to actively learn while you're in a pretty engaging and intensive residency, like emergency medicine, that's just amazing to me. I mean, it's just really mind blowing that someone had the time management skills and the desire to do that. So
right.
That was my first takeaway.
Yeah, I was thinking about how a lot of times we talk about people's prior hobbies and how we kind of lose them in training, and then we pick them back up maybe later if we make some intention to do it, despite growing families or having children or whatnot. But she didn't even do it, beforehand. So to create, which is very impressive, to explore and actually be aware that you're enjoying something like that, and to take it to another level, like not just playing around with it, but then go get extensive training on it. That there's something to say about that. But there's also this part of me that's kind of like, I'm always impressed by people that can dive real deep into one thing, because I feel like I'm all over the place. Like I like so many things, and I don't know if it's just the nature of it being novel. But she just didn't skim the surface. Like she literally dove deep into the point where she created a blog. And I thought it was really cool that her, husband helps out with photography, and his level of expertise in that grew too.
Yeah. And I think that's an important part about the blog, because there's a lot of people who throw up blogs, right? And there's a lot of people who start a blog. But I don't think for most food bloggers, I would be very, very curious, because I don't know how many of them, hundreds of thousands, at least, food bloggers, but how many of them start a blog and then also simultaneously decide that they're actually going to get advanced training and go to culinary school. So I guess ultimately what that really is, you got somebody who really cares about the craft. And I appreciate that a lot. Like when people really care about whatever their craft is, there's something beautiful about people who are so engaged in something, sort of like you're saying, where they're going in so deep that they don't want to just know one thing, like how to put a recipe together. They want to know all facets about it. And we sort of delved into that a little bit, like, well, what do you learn in culinary school that you weren't even aware to ask? Because to me, that is kind of I'm always on this fence about formal training and formal education. There's good and bad things about it, but the one thing about having a curriculum, in particularly in a kind of a defined environment, is there's less likely to have gaps, because there's so much of stuff. You can go off on YouTube a video and you can do this, but the experts oftentimes have things that they are not aware of that they do, and they're probably not sharing them in just those videos because they think everybody knows it. But if there was a curriculum and then you go in, you start learning those basic skills that may be basic, but are foundational things. Right. So it made me think again about the importance in a lot of ways about formal education for a lot of different things.
At least if there's a proper structure and what's being taught is accurate.
Yeah, I mean, because I get it, because my
some more medical stuff.
Well, I get wrestled with not elementary, but what is it? Secondary education. My kids are in high school now, and I've had a complaint about education for a number of years about how they don't necessarily teach to learn; they teach to attest, right?
Memorizing.
And memorizing. And that's not good formal education. But when you're going into some, say, like a professional career like culinary arts, they're going to teach you about knife skills. They're going to teach you about the importance of mise en place, or making sure that you have your ingredients aligned before you start the dish. They're going to teach you those little teeny hits and skills that, again, may not be in the recipe and somebody be able to duplicate it. But without that deep foundational knowledge, you really struggle to develop your own craft, right? Because you don't have that foundation. And so much of what, I guess, America, we always want to rush and, well, I want to be the one doing this. Well, without that, I guess it's like medicine. Without that formal medical training, it makes it very difficult to go off and see outside the lines, right? And yeah, so it is fascinating, and it's weird to me how we can talk about food and we can talk about food blogging, and it can make your brain move into all these other areas of your life and think, wow, that actually is relevant to this and to this and to this.
Yeah, well, even her career, I thought it was funny just talking about knife skills and protecting your own fingers, and she ends up with people in the ER that, slice off their fingers. I mean, it's just, we can always extrapolate something from the lessons learned from the most basic things that, may end up in the ER.
Talk about awesome doc, right? So you go in and you've now got a hand injury from a knife wound, and then you have Dr. Ruder come up to you and say, oh, I see this, and we're going to take care of this, and you may need to see a plastics for the tendon injury, but in the future, the way you need to hold the knife is make sure it's sharp, and then keep your knuckles here as the guard, and how cool is that, right? How cool would that be? And how awesome would that be if that was your doctor? Like, oh.
And if they, had diabetes and hypertension and carrying on excessive weight, and she can guide them onto the recipes on her website and have them learn how to help themselves into a truly healthy diet versus what their notion or belief is that a healthy diet is. Maybe they can glean a little bit of perspective from her knowledge. So yeah, I think all of it ties in well with her patient care. And, suddenly I just thought about this whole concept of, there is this interesting component of people who love being a physician, but don't love being away from home all the time. There's a certain amount, only that person knows, like, how much gives you, like, fills you. What amount of medicine or being a physician away from home fills you, where it still gives you the time for your family and the other things, your other creative outlets that really, like, serve your soul or support your soul, and the only way that you understand. Like, I think that's interesting, because I don't think we've talked about this, I've never wanted to be full-time, like, doing one thing. It's just really hard for me to just do that. Even if I was to have my own little business, which I kind of do, there's so many parts to it that you're not always doing the same thing, and you can do it in different ways at home or away from home or whatever. But I think it's interesting how everyone's different on how much they need of that physician role. And I don't even know if everyone really thinks of it like that, but for those that have, like, that kind of mindset like she does, and that need for a creative outlet, it seems like that's always kind of a requirement. Like, there's carving out more time out of that traditional job. Any thoughts?
And in addition to that, carving out that time that's outside of the practice of medicine, I can guarantee what she's doing improves her practice of medicine.
Yes.
But not just on the recovery side, where now you have the rest and relaxation and a time to kind of to decompress a little bit, but all those outside knowledge and skills are directly relevant into what she's doing in the ER. And that makes me, this has been a huge frustration for me for decades now, is the fact that the way we practice medicine in such a way is so confined, right? All these health systems and groups, they're thinking so short term of, we want a physician who does this, and stays inside the box. And we don't want to do part-time or 3/4 time. We don't want to do anything. And then they burn people out, and then they have to get a new person. And if you're a health system, and you lose them. And if you're a health system, I mean, on average for primary care, it's like $250,000 at least to recruit a new physician. So they are burning through money. We're not even talking about specialists here and how much that's costing, versus thinking a little bit more long-term and finding, how do I have a happy physician? And sure, maybe it's a little bit more work on creating this or crafting the schedules or figuring out those things. But then you have a person that's engaged with you. You have a physician that's dedicated to you, that's going to stay the long term. You're going to reduce turnover, and you have happier physicians. And like this, if they're developing outside skills, those skills are going to be reflected in their practice.
Right.
Yeah, it's a little frustrating to me.
Yeah. Well, you can give way more to, like, it's almost like you want to give more to the patient in front of you when you've filled your own cup, so to speak. You're just way better as a physician. Like you're so much, it's hard to explain. You're just not burned out, and like you can give of your ordinary self,
and you have stuff that you didn't learn, right? Because there's a vast sum of what you learn in medical school, and there's a vast sum of things that are also really important to kind of long-term health that we didn't learn. But having that medical knowledge allows you to process and incorporate that other, not necessarily medical knowledge, say on fitness, health, food, nutrition, and things, in ways that someone who doesn't have that same training can't do, right? So we have all these people who are, health and wellness supposed experts that don't have a medical background, a lot of times spouting garbage. And we've talked about that before.
Or bashing
the medical system, which is, again, no one's gonna, there's few people as skeptical as medical system as me, but I'm not someone who's going to throw it out, because I know when it's really relevant and when you need it and when you don't. And it's not an all or nothing thing.
Yeah.
But it's because I have that background that I can make that distinguishing thing. So how could we get more physicians who, we've met them. We have physicians that are fitness experts in addition to medicine. We have physicians who are culinary experts like Sonali is, and in addition to medicine. And how great it would be if there was more of that, where maybe we had more part-time physicians who are still working in healthcare, but also had time on the side to pursue these interests and then bring them back in. And how, I don't know, just be such a, maybe, is that too pie in the sky? Or am I like hallucinating here that this would be a win-win kind of environment for everyone?
No, I think who's more equipped than anybody else to bridge or to integrate, quote unquote, traditionally non-medical stuff that actually is relevant to your patients' lifestyles, that is directly correlated with their overall health, than a physician. Like, I think if you can take that kind of, knowledge from outside of medicine and bridge it, and you also have the capability to reflect on the right people to help support. If you have your own practice or whatnot, you have your own nutritionist or dietitian, whatever it is, you better understand the right people for supporting your practice. Is that what you're asking?
Well, yeah. I don't know. I think it takes a little bit more courage than most people are willing. And it takes a little bit more work. It's like anything, to create a practice environment that facilitates a happy physician in order to do their job takes a little extra work. Because why they want the physician, the only physicians that are going to work full time and do these number of shifts is because it makes it easy for whoever the scheduler is. They don't have to juggle, move around, and do whatever. Of course, when you have no physicians and they're all burned out, that same scheduling person or mid-level manager, their job is even harder now because they don't have the staff. But it just takes a little bit more work to invest to say, well, I was thinking, if I was a health system, think, well, what is it, what ultimately is my long-term goal? How would I be serving the community that we're in? How could I best attract then the physicians that could provide that service? And how can I craft an environment then in such a way that they can practice and enjoy their lives and are going to be with me for years? Long-term thinking, right?
Right.
And one of the advantages that physicians have is that we tend to generate a lot of income. Even in the specialties that they say don't generate income, we generate a lot more income. And so this idea of fixed costs becomes a little bit less. So you have to work full time in order to create your overhead. Well, a lot of this overhead in most healthcare system is garbage overhead anyway. You can hire half of the mid-level management people that are in there, or the upper level administrator, and you would have all your overhead covered pretty easily. So I don't know. It's like it's something that I just, there's just a better way. There's a better way of doing this. And I just think it takes some courage and some thinking. And I don't think enough. I just don't see that. I just don't see it in healthcare when it comes to this stuff. But
yeah, well, the question, and of course, I know we're going off tangent a little bit, but I think
yeah, thanks, Sonali, for leading us into this discussion.
Yeah, but I think, we're thinking with the mindset of a physician who's within the system and understands the gravity. And also we've talked and interviewed so many people to understand this is a ever-present thing, and the dilemmas that physicians face are very similar, despite our differences as people. But I think there's a disconnect, and I think it makes it even more important for physicians to take roles in leadership and not forget what it's like, stay connected with the physicians and actually hear them out, not make assumptions that, they get paid well enough, they don't need to be complaining, they should just, keep producing or whatever, or whatever their mindset is. I think there has to be a shift, major paradigm shift. And I think the pandemic is starting to really reveal that we had a broken system to begin with, and now it's extraordinarily, we're at a brink of like a serious paradigm shift or complete failure.
I don't think people know that, but yeah.
What?
I don't think most people are aware. They may see a little bit on the news, but man, it is bad.
Yes.
It's bad.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Well, hopefully we'll have more Sonalis out there taking their wonderful breadth of skills and perspective and realization awareness to go into areas of leadership to help physicians, perhaps, or the society as a whole, to maybe create a better bridge of medicine and wellness, and just make it better for everyone involved.
No, and just to provide an example. So what Sonali's done is she's provided an example of someone's doing it, where they're kind of straddling both roles. And then lastly, kind of this is going to be a 180-degree turn off of what we were discussing, but kind of going back to Sonali's episodes, though, what also was really, really cool is that her husband's involved, and her husband's also a physician. And if you guys haven't checked out at thefoodiephysician.com, which is their website, those photos are all done by him. And it's absolutely amazing. I mean, those are professional level photography, food photography in there. And so it was kind of interesting to hear that how, they met in residency, and we didn't talk about their relationship so much, but they've sort of paralleled and working together through this. And have both. Maybe we need to get him on the show and just get his perspective on it, because, here's somebody else who was a busy physician and has developed a really, really cool side, I don't know what you want to call it, side
website or ads and photos.
They're gorgeous pictures, like just absolutely gorgeous pictures. But that's really kind of cool. And I think that oftentimes can get left in physician relationships. Man, I wish my wife and I had something like that, where we were,
me too,
like literally like parallel, not the same thing, but parallel and working together. Just what a great way to do it. And
yeah, I think it's awesome. I loved talking to her about it. She made my wheels start spinning too, ideas and thoughts of how to create more value, but create a creative outlet. I think that's something that a lot of us should do. And I think we need to have more support from physicians to give them the confidence to try these things too. So hopefully I'm hoping our podcast helps reveal some of those things, to give context and ideas, and that, so it's not always easy. Like they said, there was ups and downs throughout the whole process, but they're still chugging along 10 years later.
Well, and even when she said, we had the blog for 10 years, but she took 2 years break off with her kids, and to realize that you can pick it up again. Yeah. That's rather than this all or nothing thing. So awesome. Yeah. It was so fun to talk to her. And so for those of you who don't know, Sonali and I went to medical school together, and she was actually a roommate with my wife during the year before we got married. So it's kind of funny. It's been super funny, like seeing people that you went to medical school with or training with, and you're like, I know that person, they're doing this super cool thing. Hey, I know that person, they're doing the super cool thing. So Yeah. Anyway, if you guys know somebody who is a physician, or maybe not a physician, but is doing super cool things, let us know. Because we would probably like to talk to them. And if you're listening to us, then you probably have good taste. So
Nice. Well, on that note, why don't you take us out?
all right. Well, hey folks, thanks for listening to the who are we again?
The Change
Physician. I'm sort of the Change Physician. This is your host, Dr. Kevin Cuccaro, with my Amazeballs co-host, Dr. Melissa Cady, with deep dive episode on a fantastic guest, Dr. Sonali Ruder, the foodie physician. Please go visit her website, buy her cookbook. She's an awesome person doing awesome things and really has some amazing recipes there. And until next time, folks, stay well.
Take care.